Today we're going to look a bit at how to do the editing to turn messes like these into shots like this. Of course, this starts as you plan your build. You want to make sure your elements are correctly proportioned. You want to make sure they're angled so that you can really see everything in the one shot. But today we're just going to look mostly at the different layers that I used. We'll go from background to foreground, which is obviously not the way I designed it, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what's going on here. So for the background, we have just a radial gradient, red to gray. Then we got some smoke and stuff. This, I draw it using a brush, and then I use Gaussian blur to blur it and a little bit of the smudge tool. We've got these gray dots. Those are just to keep the background from shining through in unwanted areas behind the dragon. As we add the actual Lego here, you'll notice that the parts that are farther away are blurred, because this is what you would expect. It gives the shot some depth, but that was all that blurring was done in post-processing. I actually used a tripod, took 4 or so shots of the exact angle I wanted, then I composited them so I had a completely sharp image, then I cut out the white background, and then I was ready to blur the parts that I wanted blurred. The reason for this is that if you take a blurry image and then you try and cut it out, you'll have some funny lines that don't look so great. So I wanted to avoid that. For the next image here, we have a bit more of a complicated setup, some more elements. We actually have less layers though. I used the merge down tool a little more freely. It may seem like overkill to show you my completely white bottom layer here, but the reason for that is that it's kind of handy to have a white layer and then I put a black layer on top, and this way, using opacity, I can just slide it up and down and get exactly the shade I want. So it's kind of a handy technique to keep in mind. Another thing you'll probably notice with this one is that I'm putting the fog and stuff on top here. I'm putting it on top of the Legos. So I just draw it free form, but then afterwards I'll go and carefully erase any part of it that's over the foreground elements. And there you are. There you have both hero shots.